Hey everybody, Jaycie here, and I am the founder of Rebel Soul Fuckery and obviously the host of the Rebel Soul Fuckery podcast. I'm really excited today. I have an amazing, beautiful, energetically beautiful, whatever you want to call it, guest with me today that I'm going to introduce to you here briefly. But first, if you don't know who the heck I am, let me tell you really quickly. So obviously I'm the founder of Rebel Soul Fuckery, as I said. And, I really focus on and work with those ambitious people who very likely are high achievers and have ticked all the boxes and then go, what? And they want to reconnect with that inner rebel fire, right? You feel that you want to have a soul driven life, you want to be aligned, and you want to get up every single morning out of bed excited to start your day. And you're like, I want that. And of course, we like to dive into signs and synchronicities and all kinds of cool stuff. So let's get into this today, though, because Pamela and I have a cool conversation to share with you. So, Pamela, will you introduce yourself to my audience, please?
Absolutely. First of all, JC, thank you so much for bringing me in front of your group. I'm always honored when I'm asked to do that. So thank you. And as for myself, my name is Pamela Sylvan, the Mojo Maker. I bring that essence, that energy, that long forgotten inherent spirit that it's now knocking and it's time to pay attention to. So that I'm that person that sort of jumps on board with you, throws the scaffolding around you, and we go on an incredible journey together until we find that end for you. So I work with women primarily in their 55 plus stage of life. So I call it their sagehood, not so much their elderhood. I'm looking for something a little bit more earthy. So I love the word sage. So in our sagehood time of year and bringing in experience, wisdom, just because you have age doesn't mean you got the wisdom. So we're excavating all of these long forgotten things as well as one's inherent power. Same as you're doing over there.
Yes, it is. It's so in alignment, so in alignment. And I love that you call it sagehood. That's freaking amazing. That's really, really cool. Love
Yes,
it. Okay.
it's a divine path.
It is. Absolutely, it is.
Mhm.
So, what kind of led you to decide to do this particular work?
Well, there's two parts to that answer. From my female lineage, the sort of Afro-Caribbean lineage, we've always dealt with spiritual energy.
Hmm.
Now, I learned this from my mother and my grandmother, but was very reticent about actually coming out and saying that I use that work. I graduated and I went off into the world of work and business corporately, and to bring that along with me didn't sit with me. I wanted to be taken seriously, so I kicked that under the bed skirt there and left it there. And my grandmother said to me, you can run, but you can't hide forever. And she was quite right. After some time, I went back to my roots and I looked at this beautiful practice of nature and spirituality and love and working closely with the divine and noticed that, you know what, I need to go back and I need to look at this. So I went back and I relearned some things I had either put aside or forgotten, how I actually turned this into a practice. I was working in the PR end of things. I had PR clients. And one
Hmm.
of the things I was noticing was when it was time to do launches, big launches, a lot of these people would falter. And a lot of
Hmm.
it had to do with their self concept, imposter syndrome. Either way, it was an inside job. They couldn't see it. They knew their stuff,
Hmm.
but they were missing something here. So I said, you know what? We have to double back a little bit and bring them along, do some work there before we put them out over there. So I'm now I started working with people who were going to be leaders in front of great amounts of people. Now I'm working
Hmm.
with women at a certain stage of their life because I'm at that stage of my life now that I moved into my 60s. I'm at that stage where, you know what? No one ever showed up and said, hey, this is who you are. This is what you do. This is what you can do now, right? There's
Hmm.
that old message. And I said, I don't think so. so
Oh my gosh, right?
so I'm leading a sort of new quiet revolution, but using all of that inherent work that I knew how to do and bringing in my business savvy as well. and married the
I
both.
love this. I love that. It is. It's so in alignment. I've been an
Mhm.
entrepreneur for 36-ish years. I need to redo the math, but somewhere in there. So being able to bring that spiritual component together with all the education and the personal development we've done and all that business experience and wisdom that we have is phenomenal. So I this is why we're sitting here today, right? Because we're so in alignment and I freaking love it. But what you said struck a chord with me as well because I have had premonition dreams and precognitive dreams and been very, very connected on the intuitive level and on that spiritual level since I was a little girl.
Mhm.
But in my mid 40s or part of my 30s into my 40s, my then husband was, for no better word, jealous. I don't know, but he tried to pretend, I guess you would say, that he had those same capabilities that I did. And some of the guides that I had coming through and the information I had coming through,
Mhm.
there was just a lot, let's just say it this way, there's a lot of gaslighting and a lot of pathological lying that happened during that time. And obviously, I'm not married to him anymore.
Mhm.
But I, because of that, shut down all of those pieces. And I just said, no. And I shut all my abilities down, turned from my guides and from not from spirituality per se, but I just shut down that aspect of my knowledge and my skill set and my abilities.
Mhm.
And it took me quite some time, a few years before I really opened back up to it. And this last year, I opened up, just it was time, and it was the you can run from it but you can't hide moment. And they were like, it's now, Jaycie, no
Yeah.
more, we've waited long enough, you're healed, come on now.
Yeah.
And so to bring that forward again, so when you said that, it so spoke to me. And
Mhm.
I there's no way that you and I are the only ones that know that feeling. There are others out there listening
Absolutely
right
not.
now going, oh, that's me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And when you mentioned that feeling that people come to that what's next, they've checked all the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
What I've been finding is that the what next is how do we now coalesce and synthesize what they already have learned on the temporal
Mm-hmm.
aspect of things and connect them to the inherent, the invisible
Mm-hmm.
part of life. To me, that is something more, especially in women. We have this particular, our feminine, it has always been dampened down, but it's
Mm-hmm.
knocking at the stage. We now have the time, we now have the I will say wisdom at this point to do something about it. You know, my daughter is grown up, she's off doing her thing. My parents are no longer here. So I have this bail of time now that I
Mm-hmm.
can actually do the required work on myself, dig deeper into
Mm-hmm.
myself, go to that next place within myself and work with those that are ready to do the same. I highlight the word ready. A lot of people like to tire kick about things, and
Mm-hmm.
it wastes a lot of time for both of us. So I
Right.
really take those that are ready because there is some aspects of the journey that is a little bit destabilizing, not in a bad way, but if you haven't gone there, you've gone
Mm-hmm.
here and only so far, and you sort of always flow back or where your peers happen to be hanging out in that
Mm-hmm.
safe space. So we're going to a place that might be a little bit unfamiliar, but so necessary. We're at that grandmother stage, we're at that stage of legacy building. We are working on being that ancestor because our time
Yes.
is there. So it's time to build this because
Yes.
you get to our stage of life, my stage of life. I don't know how old you are, so I'm not including you in that. But when you get to this stage
I'm
of
not
life,
that young, actually. I'm 53. I look a lot younger. Most people think I'm in my late 30s. I'm 53, so I'm not that much
okay,
younger than you.
okay. So, but at that point, it's about what are you leaving behind? What
Mm-hmm.
conversation? What's the narrative? What do you want to be known for? What are you still holding back from and hiding from? What is the meaning for your life or on your life that you are still running from? And at this stage, are you still running? So this is where I meet people and do some deep work around that. Um, and it's fascinating. Everybody's different, and everybody has
Yes.
that little piece, whether it's a little nugget or it's something big. We're not all meant
Mhm.
for the same purpose. And I want people to understand that social media has this way of saying, well, if you're not this big, huge person with a million followers, you're absolutely nobody. Listen, I have very small followings. It means absolutely nothing to me because of the hugeness that comes out of that. So I'm all good.
Right. And hey, for those that think that, a lot of times those that have the huge followings, they're actually not making a very good income. So
Or
it's
impact in a
it's
lot
true.
of ways.
Or
So
an impact, right? Either one,
yeah.
right? So yeah, absolutely. And I was just having a conversation with one of my male clients in regards to how women have, so especially those that are, I'm a Gen Xer, where
Mhm.
that puts you. Are you a Gen Xer or are you I don't know. But anyways, depends on what year you were born. But
Well,
with
I was born in 65, so I'm on the cusp of boomer.
yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so I'm right there. I can fall either way depending on what day I
Yeah,
feel.
you can go their way. So, but when we're in that sagehood anyway,
Mhm.
there's this. We know that us as women were, and women still are done this too, but we know that we were still in that phase of you can do anything you want to be and anything you want to do, but yet at the same time, sit down and shut up. And it was the other aspect of that was you're overly emotional. You're too emotional. You can't make good decisions because you're just too emotional about it.
Mhm.
Yet our men have been told they have to shove it down. So when we can bring forward our power and our strength and yet maintain our emotional state and allow that vulnerable part of us to shine through, whether it's in a part that we're doing the deep work or whether it's when we're helping someone else and we're feeling compassion for them and we feel emotional. There's nothing wrong with those things because all of that is power and strength as well. And so he
Absolutely.
and I were having this conversation about it. And I just thought that it was, such a vital point to think about and how it's so vital to have those aspects and to have those pieces and to not shove our own down as women, to not shove it down, to step into that and to embrace that, but to not, as you said, fall back kind of to your peers and that comfort zone, instead to do the deep work in yourself so that you can bring more
Well,
of what you're meant to bring.
we have this thing about courage and resiliency and all of these really great words that we banter about. And what does it actually mean to live into these things? And it's
Mm-hmm.
about practicing that. I take people through practicing what it means to be really resilient. What does it feel like when everybody you know is going the opposite way and you know you have to go this way? But but detaching from this initial tribe means loneliness, expulsion in some
Yeah,
cases, depending on the tribe. And
right.
in some cases, it can mean danger, right? There are cultures
Yes,
that
right. Mm-hmm.
will not just, you know, sort of kick you to
Right.
the curb. Your safety could be
Yes,
in danger,
absolutely.
depending on what that tribe is all about and what their saying is or what their belief systems
Mm-hmm.
are. So I'm very careful when I talk about this with certain people because you don't want to put them in a dangerous space and they're not
Right.
going to be able to maintain the position anyway because it's a bit too much of a big move. But
Mm-hmm.
for people who don't necessarily have to play in that particular danger zone where it's about making a decision, maybe it's going
Mm-hmm.
back to school, maybe it's going into a new relationship, maybe it's, radical self-care, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
situation is, it's a different vibe now from the circles that you're in, and that is
Yes. Mm-hmm.
discombobulating, destabilizing. So, how to form a new vibration that
Right.
will allow you to thrive, and that's takes some time. It's like a spiral. A spiral is not a straight shot up. It takes some
Mm-hmm.
time in position until it makes the next move, right? Now you can spiral
Yes. Yeah.
up or you can spiral down. It all depends on what's
Yeah.
happening. And you had mentioned that you were just speaking with your coach, and that's why it's so good to have somebody on your side whispering to
Oh yeah.
you as
Mm-hmm.
you journey, because the journey, as fabulous as it can be
Yes.
very tumultuous in places too, right?
Oh, absolutely. I've always, as I said, I've been an entrepreneur for 36 years. I was a
Mhm.
trained dancer and a gymnast as well. And I've always had a coach, or at the very least, attended conferences and had trainers and so forth. But I've always had a coach in my corner.
Mhm.
And, the very tiny amounts of time was I not able to for whatever reason. But it's so important. If we want to do analogy that I will typically use with that as a trained dancer, I can go and teacher in the past. I could go and train my dancers and students and see all the mistakes they were making. It didn't matter how many times I did such and such, whatever it was, in the mirror and watched myself. I wasn't going to be able to catch my own mistakes.
Yep.
So you need that coach to find yours and that vulnerable place. And of course, my background, my education is in psychology, and so there's also that therapists need therapists. Of course they do, and coaches need coaches. It's just the way it should be. So we all need that if we want to be the best that we could possibly ever be.
And have the ability to take feedback because this is not
Yes.
about having a yes party or a yes person in your corner. I want you to tell me
Right.
that there's something going on in the back of my head because I
Yes.
can't see my backside. And that's
Yeah.
really what a good coach or mentor is
Yeah.
to tell you what you can't see. And sometimes it's all about the energy. The minute I get in front of somebody, I can see what they can't see.
Mhm.
And I come on your show and I put on a nice scarf, or I throw on some
Yeah.
earrings, and what's all going on here. I have no
Yeah.
idea what's going on back there. None.
Right. It's
Unless
true.
I had someone to say, "Hey, you got something stuck in your head, right?" And then I
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
them. I didn't get mad because they pointed out the problem,
Yeah.
but some
Yeah. Right.
people gets mad when
Oh,
you see.
true.
Have
Yeah.
you considered starting to show up like this because that's no longer working. And now you are holding yourself back because there's no growth here. The complacency
Mhm.
is causing casualties, well, psychic casualties anyway. So
Right. Right.
it's allowing yourself the room to hear the story. To dig into the
Mhm.
blind spots, to ask for feedback and to hear it, and you don't have to like it. There are things that
No.
people say to me, and it's like, I might have to take a half a day and dissolve some of
Yeah.
that feeling. But what was said and why was it said and is it true?
Right. Absolutely. And I think that understanding that sometimes when we respond or react to something, that knee jerk reaction is a trigger from something that's deeper, which means we probably need to work on it or we
Yeah.
wouldn't have felt the trigger to begin with.
Yep.
So if we're uncomfortable because somebody said, hey, well, we'll do a worse one. Hey, you have toilet paper hanging out the back or under your shoe or whatever that would be, right? Instead of being embarrassed,
Yep.
trigger of it,
Yeah.
then go, oh gosh, okay, whoops, and laugh it off and go, ta-da, look at me. I'm the queen of toilet paper, whatever.
That's right.
Um,
That's right.
find the humor in it, find the positive in it, and find the opportunity for growth in it. Also, the gratitude for whoever tried to help you. Even if you don't agree with what they told you, they were trying to help you. So those people that as we grow, we have to realize that and you've said it, but they're going to fall away. There are going to be people that fall away from us, and we have to be prepared for that. But we have to understand and appreciate that when they either fall away or we remove them from our lives, their naysayerness is not necessarily that they really don't believe in what we're doing, but that they have their own fears that they wouldn't be able to do it, or they're afraid for us. And so they're really trying to just protect us in their way. Does that make sense
Absolutely.
to you? Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is why it really is important to know thyself. And I say self with a big capital S
Yeah.
with gold gilding on it to really get to know yourself to the degree that you understand your responses, the thing that you're still working on that you might be a little bit vulnerable about, the places you're
Yeah.
just really you're in your power, and all the places in between. You're a work in progress, and every day it should be like an excavation. You're taking
Yeah.
field notes. You're understanding what's
Right.
the environment is responding to
Yes.
you. What is your input? What is the output? What are the outcomes? There's no
Mhm.
failure. It's just results. I mean, we know the wording, but to actually get in there and do it, those that actually do that, they see the growth over time. And I say to them, people say, "Oh, I don't have time for what? Your life?
Right.
Everything you do is your
Yeah.
life. And if you're not paying attention,
Yeah.
if you're not capturing it, if you're not asking the questions, I'm not sure
Mhm.
what it is you're actually up to at this point. You see, we've never been trained that way. We've been
Right.
trained to plug into someone else's system. We've never been
Mhm.
trained to understand ourselves so we can either be better employees if that's what you want, or
Mhm.
understand that you do have options and choices. Because most people go through life not understanding that they do have options and choices.
Yes. Completely. It's just so completely true. And there's that sense of connect from self. And when we are disconnected from not only ourself, but from ourselves on the soul level, when we
Hmm.
have that disconnect from that, because we're so in survival mode and
Yeah,
just trying to get through life, whether it is bad relationship, been there, right? And it's very not it wasn't debilitating for me. It is for some, but it still does a lot of damage. Or whether it is the career, maybe a toxic environment, or it's just that it's not fulfilling you because you're not being able to do what you know inside you were called to do. And so if we don't do those things and we ignore those things, my belief system is you're just going to have to go do it over. It's kind of like going to school, right? If you fail a course and it's one of the important courses or required ones that you have, you're going
hmm
to have to repeat it. You
yeah.
have to pass it to move on.
Yeah. Well, that's what I always say. I said, when I'm finished with this experience and I bounce out, I'm putting in a request to maybe teach other energies how to maybe fly and navigate other cosmos. I mean, I'm putting
Yeah.
in for the next job, right? Because I really want to
Yeah.
feel that I did what I had to do
Yeah.
here. Now, what do I know? I might be missing the mark in a million ways, but I'm doing what I can absolutely think to do or
Yeah.
feel called or compelled to do while I'm here, and to
Mm-hmm.
understand myself. And, I when people hear that about yourself and yourself and yourself, they
Mm-hmm.
seem to think it equates to me, me, me. No, it's
No.
two different
Right.
kinds of energies
Mm-hmm.
here.
Yeah.
If I'm taking care of that, if I'm understanding my triggers, and I'm working through to dissolve these things so I don't go into battle with everybody all the time, that helps the bigger
Yeah.
me space and the bigger we space. It's
Mm-hmm.
not selfish like we've been taught. And as we
Right.
women specifically have been
Mm-hmm.
taught to nature and nurture everybody but ourselves.
Absolutely. I just had this conversation with another guest, and it's exactly what we were talking about. You know, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to fulfill our own cup or just really connect to our soul because that's the only way we have to love ourselves. It's the only way we're going to be able to give that to others. We can only love someone else as much as we truly love ourselves.
Absolutely. And even that, as again, we are awash in information and content, and this is an amazing time to be alive. Yet
Yeah.
because we're missing so much of it because we don't know where to look or to put our attention
Mm-hmm.
on. And I bring people to the point and say, leave that over there. Question yourself and then learn how to talk to yourself. Find your
Yeah.
words. Find the words that are key to you and then start using your word. That's one of the things I was first taught when I was brought into the spiritual aspect of my grandmother and my mother. The first thing I got was a word, and it was whispered to me. And that word
Mm-hmm.
is the word that I use. It's like they say, pound that word when you need to move through difficult
Mm-hmm.
situations or there's difficulty in the energy field. And I've never forgotten that word, and I never repeated it to anybody because they said if you're sharing this privateness with other people, then they know your word. Your word is
Ah,
sacred to you. It
mm-hmm.
is your
Interesting.
key. And I think people don't understand themselves well enough that they're a system either energy systems, head to foot, or the nervous system, the immune system.
Hmm.
We're a subset of different layers of systems. And we know nothing about the system other than what we wash and comb every day. And I remember I went in for a physical, and again, because of my age, we did a heart thing. First time in my
Hmm.
life I've seen my heart. And I watched this thing, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, oh my gosh, for 6 decades, this thing did this job beautifully
Hmm.
without my help, underneath my radar, and just beautifully in this rhythm. And I'm thinking, I felt so holy. Now, I know
Hmm.
everyone's got one, but when you don't see what's going on
Yeah.
below the surface, you have such reverence for the system.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this has just been such a beautiful conversation. It truly has been. And I love what you're doing. And I'm so happy that you are doing this work in the world because it is so needed. It
Absolutely.
absolutely is. So I want to make sure everyone knows how to find you. And I do believe that you had something you wanted to offer to the listeners today.
Absolutely. There's two things. I just wanted to let people know that I just brought out my second book, Soul Food, and it is about reinvention and using the power of your words and how to do that. First half of the book is the sort of scientific part, and the next half of the book are all the lovely things that people like to talk about. And as for your audience, I would love to have them access the 52 digital soul card deck. And it's auto shuffled so that they can, get their card for the day, and there's a prompt attached and they can do what they need to do with it each day. But I will send you the link that allows them to access that with no cost.
Excellent. Excellent. And that'll be in the show notes, you guys. So make sure you check that. Pamela, thank you so much for hanging out
Oh,
with me
thank you.
today and sharing your wisdom and your sagehood with our guest, my guest today, our guest. There are guests when you're here with me. So thank you for that.
Well,
You
thank
guys,
you.
you are so welcome. I'm so glad you were here. So you guys, we're going to go out and stir up a little rebel soul fuckery as we move out of here today, and we will catch you next time.